Marcos, the confident manager of an elite restaurant, made a quick, harsh decision, driven by bias. He dismissed a man he deemed unworthy, only to later discover he was vital to the restaurant's success. The public watched in shock as his world began to crumble. At La Cuisine Magnifique, the morning buzzed with the sounds of precision. Chefs darted between stovetops, calling out to each other, their voices mixing with the hiss of pans and the clatter of utensils. The aromas of fresh herbs, braised meats, and baked bread filled the air, creating a sensory tapestry that hinted at the culinary delights to come. In the dining room, elegant guests exchanged lively conversations, while the gentle clinking of glasses and silverware underscored an ambiance of refined luxury. Marcus, the 48-year-old manager, moved with practiced grace between the dining area and the kitchen. His graying hair, slicked back, and his sharp tailored suit gave him an air of authority and meticulous care. He scrutinized every detail, from the timing of each dish to the slightest gesture of the waitstaff, offering a raised brow here or a curt nod there. Marcus was proud of the restaurant's high standards, feeling himself the guardian of its pristine reputation. With years of experience, Marcus had grown accustomed to serving a particular kind of guest, well-dressed, affluent, and accustomed to luxury. He knew what an ideal guest should look like, and without fully realizing it, had come to judge others against this standard. His biases, though subtle, showed through in fleeting gestures, a cool, assessing glance, or a slight stiffening when he encountered someone who didn't match his image of respectable. That day, with the restaurant fully booked, the doors opened, and in walked a tall, dignified black man in his 50s. Though simply dressed, he carried himself with a quiet confidence that spoke of experience and self-assurance. Mr. Hughes was impeccably groomed, his posture relaxed yet poised. But Marcus's gaze flickered with disapproval, a shadow of doubt crossing his expression. He assumed this man didn't belong, possibly someone stepping in for a lunch beyond his means. Without hesitation, Marcus approached, his footsteps firm and his expression steely. Stopping just within arm's length, he addressed the man with a raised chin. "Sir, our restaurant has a dress code," he stated, his tone formal, almost dismissive. Mr. Hughes met Marcus's gaze without a hint of hesitation, his calm eyes unwavering. "I have a meeting," he responded evenly, his voice a blend of civility and quiet strength. Marcus's eyebrows arched slightly, a trace of skepticism creeping into his face. "A meeting?" he repeated, as if the very concept were suspect. Without waiting for an explanation, he gestured subtly toward the door. "I'm afraid we cannot serve you today, sir. We uphold high standards." Nearby patrons, sensing the tension, glanced over, their conversations quieting as they observed the interaction. But Marcus stood firm, rooted in his conviction that he was preserving the restaurant's order and reputation. Yet, as Mr. Hughes held his ground, the moment hung in the air, resonating with an unspoken gravity that not even Marcus in all his certainty could fully ignore. The atmosphere at La Cuisine Magnifique shifted dramatically. Conversations that had filled the room moments earlier faded, and the clinking of silverware and dishes ceased, leaving a heavy, charged silence. Staff members who had been engrossed in their tasks now looked up, captivated by the tension unfolding before them. An unspoken understanding rippled through the room. Everyone sensed that something pivotal was occurring, though few fully grasped its significance. Marcus, feeling the weight of all eyes on him, felt his palms grow damp, his heart racing beneath his tailored suit. His face flushed with a mixture of embarrassment and shame as he stood, momentarily paralyzed, when Mr. Thompson, a tall, imposing figure with an aura of authority, strode toward the scene. With a warm, genuine smile, Mr. Thompson extended a hand to the guest Marcus had just dismissed. "Mr. Hughes, you're always early," he greeted him, his tone filled with a warmth and respect that Marcus's approach had lacked entirely. The simplicity of the greeting pierced Marcus's pride, making him acutely aware of the magnitude of his misjudgment. Mr. Hughes, unruffled, offered a composed smile. His gaze, calm and wise, reflected a lifetime of experience. He glanced from Marcus to Mr. Thompson, his voice gentle but firm as he replied, "There seems to have been a misunderstanding." The words, though kindly spoken, carried an undertone of significance that sliced through Marcus's self-assured demeanor. Marcus struggled to find words, feeling as though a chasm had opened beneath him, threatening to engulf his carefully cultivated reputation and career. The restaurant staff, initially casting only sidelong glances, now focused intently, as though bearing witness to a moment that transcended the ordinary. Mr. Thompson's unexpected arrival and his unmistakable rapport with Mr. Hughes left little doubt among the staff and nearby guests. The man Marcus had dismissed so readily was not only a VIP, but potentially one of the most powerful people shaping the restaurant's future. This revelation sent a ripple of realization through the onlookers, each now aware that they were witnessing a profound turning point. A heavy silence settled over the restaurant, an almost palpable tension that seemed to freeze everyone in place, as though the whole room held its collective breath. Marcus, the manager who prided himself on precision and control, now found himself feeling exposed and powerless. His usual confidence was gone, his face flushed deeply, his palms clammy, and his tongue dry as stone. Thoughts tumbled through his mind, but none coalesced into words. He knew, painfully well, that this brief encounter might bring his carefully built career crashing down like a fragile house of cards. Mr. Thompson, known for his steady composure, now glared at Marcus with an intensity that could pierce glass. His narrowed eyes betrayed his anger, and his usually calm voice rang out with uncharacteristic steel. "Did you truly believe that appearance means more than a person's real value?" he demanded, each word weighted. "This man, Mr. Hughes, is not just any guest. He's the one who enables us to maintain the very standards you are so intent on upholding. Without his innovations, this restaurant would have lost its competitive edge long ago." Mr. Hughes, standing quietly beside Mr. Thompson, raised a steady hand as if to quell the tension in the air. His face remained inscrutable, yet his voice carried an undeniable strength, a quiet power that demanded respect. "Throughout my career, I've encountered many situations and met countless people," he began, his gaze sweeping calmly around the room. "I am accustomed to challenges, but I did not expect this from a place that claims to value quality and professionalism." The restaurant staff, who had initially watched in silence, began exchanging glances, nodding in subtle agreement. Their silent gestures conveyed support for Mr. Hughes, who now, to them, embodied the qualities of respect and integrity that far exceeded surface appearances or hasty judgments. Mr. Hughes' gaze shifted back to Marcus, his voice resonating with an authoritative calm. "Let this be a lesson," he continued, his tone measured, but each word carrying the weight of a final verdict. "Such incidents have no place in an establishment that claims to strive for true excellence." His words lingered in the air, a poignant reminder of the principles the restaurant should represent. And in that moment, everyone knew that this was more than a lesson for Marcus. It was a call to reevaluate the very essence of the restaurant's values. The silence that had started in tension now carried a different weight, one of reflection and a hope for change. The consequences of the incident were swift. Marcus was temporarily stripped of some of his responsibilities and placed on probation, required to complete training on cultural awareness and inclusion. This decision was welcomed by the staff, many of whom had long felt that changes were needed. News of the incident quickly spread within the restaurant industry, sparking discussions and raising questions. Mr. Thompson didn't let the matter pass quietly, making a public statement emphasizing the importance of respect and fairness in hospitality, calling it a principle he would never compromise. From that day, Mr. Hughes became a symbol of resilience and inner strength at La Cuisine Magnifique. When he returned for a meeting, he was welcomed not as an outsider, but as an honored and respected guest. Staff greeted him with genuine smiles, and he was seated at the best table with a panoramic view of the city. This incident was not only a moment of shame and reflection for Marcus, but also a catalyst for everyone at the restaurant to reevaluate its core values. Over time, La Cuisine Magnifique updated its policies to emphasize respect, inclusion, and openness. Staff morale improved, and they became more confident and united. Marcus, having completed his training and reflected on his mistakes, began working on rebuilding trust. He was no longer the arrogant manager who valued appearances over human dignity. Instead, he strove to support a respectful and inclusive culture in the restaurant. As for Mr. Hughes, he continued his work and remained a living reminder that respect isn't just words, but actions that bring people together and build genuine bridges of understanding.